Thank you for staying here. I am Danielle Monteiro. Sorry because I forgot to translate to English, but I am Master in Computer Engineer, Microsoft MVP in Data Platform category, MongoDB Female Innovator. I was developer after DBA, and now I am data architect. This is my contacts. It's a pleasure to add you in my social medias. I would like to invite you to know some initiatives. If you need a personalized courses or need consulting, now DoubleDB Consulting. The website is doubledb.consulting. My blog is dbforbeginners.com, and I am a part of Homemakers Code and invite the woman to participate and then now the project. And my meetup is Databases-SP. GDPR. My presentation contains three main topics. First, I will speak about what is GDPR. After, I will present the impacts of GDPR in Brazil. And to finish, I will talk about GDPR impacts in database projects. My objective here is to make the audience aware of data, of personal data protection. And the other objective is to reinforce the importance of knowing the law before it is fully applied. We have a challenge. First of all, we need to know GDPR. GDPR stands for General Data Protection Regulation. It's a European law used to protect personal data. Personal data European citizens' personal data inside or outside Europe. GDPR replacing some directives to protect data, and this law is in force, but the most companies is not prepared to apply it. What is new? Here are some important definitions that we should know, but the most important is what is personal data. Is all data can be used to uniquely identify a person. At this moment, I think it is important to highlight the first database impact. If you use in your databases CPF as primary key or part of primary key, all your tables contains personal data. Other news increase the territorial scope. In the past, the directives were valid only in Europe. GDPR is valid around the world. Around the world where there are European citizen personal data. The fines are wider with GDPR. They can be 4% of annual turnover or 20 million euros. Is a very heavy. Consent. Now it's necessary to user for the consent the use of data. The request can be for the consent must be clear and explicit. The user may withdraw the consent at any time. At this point, it's important to have a governance in this agreement. If you occurs any problems or problems with that result in a risk or if to the right or freedoms, the processor needs to notify controllers, users, and authority. And the communication should be done within 72 hours. The user can request information from data process and what data is processing, where and why. Right to be forgotten, I hate it. The user may request that all personal data be erased, not disseminated, not processing. But in this point, I need to talk about other impact. Do you know, it's very difficult, do you know all personal data in all database? Um, how, how to delete all personal data? Is necessary to delete data warehouse data? And your company is prepared to do this? And users can choose the controller of their data. And here, this is very, very important about the second. Now I move on to the second session when I talk about Brazilian impacts. Despite being European law, GDPR brought impacts in Brazil. In February of 2020, the Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados came into force. This law is a Brazilian version of GDPR. Before I start to talk about Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados, I need to talk about governance, data governance. Because if you're going to see the law, law enforces the data governance. Believe me, if your company have data governance, the law is more suitable, if it's possible. Here are important definitions to understand Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados. And Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados establishes rules for the collection, storage, processing, and sharing personal data. The law requires more security and data governance, and bring heavy fines for no compliance. Some important points. The law applies to all sectors for the economy, both public, private, online, and offline. The law is applicable in all places where there are data of Brazilian citizens, similar GDPR. Public data are publications on social media, official diary. The law says they should be used only for the purpose they were published. Basic rights is very difficult. The law ensures that the data rights must be guaranteed in an accessible and effective manner. There are some rights listed: access to data, rectification, cancellation or exclusion, explanation of the use of data, data portability, request a copy of entry data. This point, I would like to talk this right brings a lot of impact in database projects. Basic rights of users. The law, international data transfer. Personal data may be transferred to other countries, but transfer must be authorized by user. Treatment, security information agencies standards are very important because the treatment agents should take appropriate technical, security, and administrative measures to protect your data. Data protection impact assessment is a document, the data governance documented. Describes the process for processing personal data that may create risks to rights for the users, as well as measures, safeguards, mechanisms, technicals to mitigate these risks. Privacy by design and default. Doing right from the start, is now in the law. Security and privacy need to be taught from the beginning of project. The general principles of Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados and safety standards should be observed from conception, execution, and offerings for the product or service. Now, move on to the last session. Database projects impacts. It's very funny. GDPR and Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados impact database projects. It's the fact. It's necessary to guarantee security and privacy of personal data. We can use a relational database. You can use native resource to service GDPR and Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados. I am going to talk about the most important articles for database projects and the SQL Server resources that can be used to service GDPR. Some GDPR articles have an impact on database projects. Article 25, Privacy by Design and Default, control the exposure to personal data. Article 32, Security of Process. Security mechanisms to protect personal data. Article 33, Notification of breach or personal data to the authority. Article 30, Record of processing activities, now in bylog. Record and monitor operations. Data processing, data protection, Article 35. Data protection impact assessments. Documentation, documenting the risks and security measures. An approach indicated by Microsoft and that I find very, very interesting is Discover. Oh my God, Discover. Identify the personal data is being managed and where they reside. Manager controls how personal data is used and accessed. Protect, establish security controls to prevent, detect, and respond to vulnerabilities and data breaches. And report, maintain required documentation and manage data requests and provide notifications. It's very difficult, but is easier than wait until February 2020. The first impact of GDPR on database projects is that personal data must be now. And the use case case tools for documentation, database metadata, and equivalent of SQL Server extended properties help you to know your data. Modern that relational database have many features. We need to choose the ones that will really to use it and disable others. Article 25 is a big article. User and group authentication and authorization. It's a good practice to have this data centralized. For example, integrating with Active Directory. Give only the required permissions. And the permissions must be granular at the object level. If you are using SQL Azure, configure the IPs that can access the database. Using masking of the data for personal information. Ensure that only the right users can see the information. Ideally, the database mask sensitive data only. The mask should not impact database performance. In the SQL Server, it's possible to use dynamic data masking. It's a very cool resource. Article 25, but it's Article 32. We need to encrypt data in transit, and we can do this in the SQL Server using Transport Layer Security, TLS. Security of processing restrict the data access. With SQL Server, you can use high-level security. According to a certain criteria, the user can access some lines and others not. Restriction applied every time data access is required. Encrypted data in SQL Server, you can use transparent data encryption to encrypt data at rest in the physical layer. TDM performs real-time encryptation and decryption to backup, database, transaction log, without requiring changes. If your data is sensitive, you can use always encrypted. For some highly sensitive data, cryptography at rest and connection is not be enough. Always encrypt provide the separation between who have the data and who manage the data. If an incident occurs, it is necessary to ensure that this data is available in a timely manner. SQL Server always on maximizes the availability, but it's a lot of configurations. In the SQL Azure, configure options according to the requirements. Automated backup, restore on time, long-term backup retention, activate gel replication, also enables load balance using secondary database. SQL auditing log to all operations, all operations in personal data. Azure SQL Database Audit tracks database activity, write events events to an auditing log. Auditing can be enabled in the audit panel on the Azure panel. In the SQL Server, let's you tracking activities in local database and monitor activities that specifically affect sensitive personal data. Server is possible to logging server and database level and can audit only necessary events. And important as protecting DB from security problems is to identify them. You need to monitor that database to see when they occur. In the SQL Azure, SQL treatment detection detects anomalous database activity, indicating potential security threats to the database. It proactively notifies the database administrators or owner for the subscription of suspicious activity. To finish, people, GDPR and Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados have impact on database projects. Lei Geral de Proteção de Dados is one of the impacts of GDPR in Brazil. Use native database resources conform some GDPR articles. Read, research, and verify the impacts of the law in your systems, in your business. I always said data governance is the key to success. Do not wait until February 2020 to adapt. And this is my contacts. And thank you so much for the attention.